The country needs more Xavier universities. Xavier could take a student with a 2.5 as well as a student with a 4.0 and educate them together. And after that 4 or 5 year process, they would all graduate and go out into the world and be very successful. That's the essence of education.
From the Office of Institutional Advancement and Alumni Relations, it's Xavier Gold Live, the podcast, bringing you stories of leadership, impact, and the Xavier spirit. What's new, XU? I'm Tashia Hogue.
And I'm Jalen Jones. We're both student journalists from Xavier's Mass Communications Department and are excited to bring you a podcast where we connect with our Xavier community through conversation.
In each episode, we bring you intimate interviews with standout alumni who will give us a glimpse into their unique Xavier experience. Woo-wee! I'm still full off that third Thanksgiving plate.
Same. Mac and cheese, candy yams, collard greens, turkey. It don't matter what it was on my plate.
Coming off that Thanksgiving break, being around your loved ones, there's just a lot to be thankful for.
Facts. You know what I'm thankful for?
What?
I'm thankful for family, connection, and just having that quality time together. What about you?
I'm thankful for all the nanas, grannies, the mamas, aunties, ladies in the back with the fat under their arms, the ones slaving the night before, making sure the dinner is fire. So shout out to y'all. But you know what I'm also thankful for?
What?
That Chicago to Xavier pipeline, where the student and alumni community is deep. My flight home was like 80% Xavierites.
Yes, speaking of alumni from your city, our upcoming guest is a Chicago native.
Today, we're thrilled to have Dr. John Jackson on the podcast, a proud member of Xavier's class of 94. Dr. Jackson serves as president and CEO of the Schott Foundation, driving transformative change in both public education and racial justice through strategic investments in advocacy.
His previous roles include serving as the National Director of Education and Chief Policy Officer at the NAACP and as a Senior Policy Advisor in the Office of Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Education. Let's welcome Dr. John Jackson to the podcast.
It's great to be here with you all today, and I commend you all for creating this platform. This is something that we didn't have when I was at Xavier, so you brought something new and fresh to the Xavier community.
So we're going to start off with just what a typical day-to-day looks like for someone in the position of president and CEO of an organization that focuses on public education.
I would say that you're partially right when you talk about public health, because education is significant to the health of our economy, the health of our democracy, and individually, those who have a higher educational attainment level have healthier outcomes. So we often say health is an education issue also. But the days are different based on the day of the week. We have an organization where we have team members that you have to meet. I try to do all of my internal meetings on Monday, meet with my senior leadership team Monday and Tuesdays, so that it frees up the rest of the week to meet with external partners, or if I have travel, that's when I also do it.
Give us some insight to what led you to champion causes like public education and civil rights.
Well, I grew up on, as you know, the Southside of Chicago. My parents were divorced when I was 2, so my mother lived in Chicago. My father lived in the suburbs of Chicago. When I was 12, I got in a little trouble, so I had to move with my dad in the south suburbs of Chicago. And that's when I realized some of the inequities that exist. I was fine in Chicago public schools. I had some academic challenges in the suburban school. Same student. It didn't mean that I was not a good person, but there was some resource inequities. And that always stuck with me, even when I went on and came to Xavier University, went on University of Illinois and Harvard, that if we're able to bridge those resource inequities for those in the suburban school system, as well as Chicago public schools, the students are able to perform at a high level. And so that was my introduction to resource inequities, and it's something that really shaped the rest of my career.
How do you bridge the gap between the two when it comes to the disparities among them?
When you think about resource disparities, resources are distributed often by public officials. Legislators make decisions around the resources that flow into a school district, the resources that flow into a community. School boards and mayors, in some instances, make decisions. So, our job is to equip community organizations with the resources that they need to advocate for fair resources in Springfield, in Illinois, or in Baton Rouge, in Louisiana, so that legislators understand the significance of giving resources to the communities that have the most need. Far too often, Black and Brown communities are left out or under-resourced. So we need grassroots organizations to ensure that legislators and city council members and school board members and mayors do what's necessary to ensure that our young people have a fair and substantive opportunity to learn also.
With your wide-ranging expertise and involvement in numerous organizations, how do you maintain a balance among your various responsibilities?
It's tough, and it definitely takes a lot of planning, something that I imagine you all are confronted with your schedules. You've got to make time for classes. You've got to make time to do this podcast, to prepare for the podcast. You've got to make time for friends, and then you want to make time to socialize, parties, and all the rest, which requires a lot of scheduling. So that same skill set that you all are developing right now or have developed, you're going to take that and use it later in life. That's why I always encourage students to do as you all are doing, get involved in extracurricular activities, create something new, because it's that skill set of really stretching yourself that is going to be something that you're going to use at every stage of your life, because it won't be perfectly slotted into your time slots. You're going to have to create the time. You're going to have to prioritize what's important in this moment. And to your point, that's what I do now. Of course, I have an assistant who helps schedule my time. And we look at the week, we look at the month, and we will organize how all of these pieces fit. One final point, it does take making some tough decisions. There are some things that you just can't do. And no is as important as yes, right? What you don't do is as important as what you decide to do with your time. So I would say the skill sets that you all are developing are the skill sets, or that I developed at Xavier, are the skill sets that I use today to make the time commitments work.
While we observe your career and your achievements, we also noticed that your involvement in President Obama's transition team, an achievement that seems like a pivotal experience. So could you share the backstory of how you joined the team and delve into the collective goals and aspirations of the education policy transition work group during that time?
I had worked with previous presidential administrations, with the Clinton administration. I had sat on the commission, Brown v. Board Commission, during the George W. Bush administration. So I was very familiar with both federal policy, both community organizing, and political campaigns. That being the case, when it became time for the Obama campaign to select members of their transition team, there are a few of us that have that experience. And so I was honored and blessed to have the opportunity to be asked to serve on that transition team, specifically to look at how we lay out, at that time, the president's education agenda for the first 100 days.
So after exploring your leadership and not only the workplace, but also your contributions through your community outreach, we like to relive your Xavier experience. Let's take a trip down memory lane. It's the start of the 1990s, and the likes of, Belle Biv DeVoe and MC Hammer, they're prevalent in the culture, So around the time where you decided that XU is the institution for you, what gave you the inspiration to choose Xavier as your place of study, especially being from the Southside of Chicago?
Well, I wish I could say that I looked at a lot of colleges and I wanted to make the best academic decision for me and all the rest. But my mother had not gone to college. My father had not gone to college, but he knew enough to take me down to the Ida B. Wells public housing section. And there was a counselor there by the name of Silas Parnell. And as Silas had done at the time for so many students in Chicago, he provided some college counseling. And what he told me, he said, I'm going to send you to a place that's very warm with pretty women. And that's all I needed and wanted to know at age 17. And so I said, sign me up. Now, it worked out because Xavier's a great academic institution. It's a great place for learning, and it was a great fit for me. But that's my story as to how I got to Xavier University.
Do you mind sharing like those memorable moments or even like an event that happened during your Xavier experience that's just stayed with you over the past years?
Yeah, so that first week with orientation with peer deans, and it was a host of, they would break us up in these groups that were identified by the various colors. I still remember that I was in the white group because I asked, how did I come to an HBCU and join a white group? But it was only white in name. I still have friends who were a part of that group. And we competed all week. It was almost like a mini Olympics. We competed all week on a host of different things. And that built some level of camaraderie. And it gave us an opportunity to learn, or at least have a small group of people who you knew and you could tap into for questions. Because I think that's the most difficult part when, especially for a first gen student, when you don't know what to expect, when you're bringing some of your behaviors from where you're coming from to a place where it doesn't seem to fit, it gives you an opportunity to sort of sit back and watch. And, and so that was very important. Having that week before classes start to see, peer deans, to be in those groups, to have a talent show, to have other things to talk about other than academics, tremendously important. And I'm glad that the administration invested in that. And I'm going to sound old because that was only the second year that they had launched the Peer Dean Week. In fact, it was the class before mine that started that week.
How were you able to navigate those cultural differences with you being from Chicago?
I looked and learned. And in fact, in Chicago, you don't just stare at people, right? If you're just staring at someone back then, it's like, what's up? Well, And what I noticed in New Orleans, it was common to just stare. And I noticed also there was some scruffles that happened because of that miscommunication. So again, I got an opportunity to sit back and watch and learn and try to better understand what was happening. But it's little things like that. I can't say I totally understood what people from New Orleans were saying when I got there.
Language barriers.
That's right. There's the language barrier. So it takes a level of patience, willingness to be open, willingness to say my way is not the right way, and some level of confidence that I will get through this, and some level of recognition as to why I'm there. I'm not there to recreate what I did at home. I'm here to do something new. I'm here to do something that no one else in my family has done. So I've got to be someone new in order to do that, in many respects. And for all of the reasons that I just outlined, I would encourage individuals to approach that first year and those first weeks as open as possible, being confident as to what you can do, but also recognizing why you are there. The goal is the goal. You came there to do something different than what you did in high school, what you did in your hometown.
What impact did your time at Xavier have on not only your personal, but your professional journey to success?
So my freshman year, I, again, watched and learned, and I was able, at some point, I ran for freshman class president. I don't know why. Somebody encouraged me to do it. I gave a speech and I talked about something that I could not control. In the Middle East, the war was going on, and people liked it. I was elected. So I was in student government, went from there, worked in student government, eventually became student government president. And so for me, it was an opportunity to always look at the Xavier community and see how we could be more engaged as students, how we could be more welcoming to new students, and how do we build a culture of Xavierites. And I think culture is so important. People should be able to tell when you leave Xavier that there's something about you unique and special, that you are a Xavierite. And so we would try to do things there to sort of institutionalize that culture. But that was an important part. My sophomore year, I pledged Alpha Phi Alpha. So again, that for me, I grew up with two older sisters. All of my cousins were female. So this was welcoming me into a new experience, a brotherhood, which I would say, as most fraternities, the goal is not just to keep that experience within, but it's to give you a new perspective on brotherhood that you begin to share with other men across the country, across the globe. And so that was a new experience for me, both being an alpha, balancing my classes, balancing student government, balancing fraternity meetings, step shows, parties, and everything that comes with all of that. But I would say it's an experience that I would not trade, and I remember even to this day. So I would say value those years at Xavier University.
Could you also elaborate? What does it mean to you to be a Xavierite?
Being a Xavierite means being an individual who is rooted in confidence and faith, an individual who strives for excellence and has the confidence to know that you can achieve excellence. It means one who is engaged in community and justice, and one who is confident in their skin, confident in their Blackness, confident in being in their gender disposition, confident in who they are. And I think those are core components of what I've noticed about Xavierites past and Xavierites present.
In addition to that, what are your hopes or your aspirations for Xavier's future as it continues to also press forward and fear nothing in its next century?
I think the world needs Xavier, because when you look at what's happening in communities and K through 12 education, and you look at the fact that there are students who are both coming with more academic challenges, with more mental health challenges. And at the same time, there are students who are coming in that are very well prepared and very goal-oriented. They have great aspirations. Xavier University is a place that can accommodate all of that, right? Unlike so many other institutions, I often say that when I graduated from high school with a 2.5 GPA, Harvard wasn't smart enough to teach me. They didn't have professors smart enough to teach me. But Xavier could take a student with a 2.5 as well as a student with a 4.0 and educate them together. And after that 4 or 5 year process, they would all graduate and go out into the world and be very successful. That's the essence of education. So as I look at K through 12 education in communities across the country, the country needs more Xavier universities. And as many of our HBCUs do, they're able to educate those who graduate summa cum laude and thank you laude, and educate them just the same and ensure that they're prepared to go out and do great things. And if you don't believe me, I would say test us by our graduates. I would put Xavier graduates up against graduates of any institution. And I've had an opportunity to attend an HBCU, a Research One institution in the University of Illinois, and an Ivy League institution at Harvard. I would put Xavier University up against any student from any of those institutions.
In what ways have you stayed connected or even given back to the Xavier community since graduating? And how would you encourage others to do the same?
Well, I stay connected, of course, through and give through Give Love Xavier. We have that every year. And of course, the Alpha Phi Alpha came out as the top Greek letter organization. So the brothers are committed. Kudos to the brothers. I stay committed. I was on the board for 5 years. My term ended 2 years ago. So I wanted to ensure that others were invested in Xavier University. We were ensuring a safe climate and that Xavier was producing a vision for the future. So through board leadership also. And I encourage others to give through, we being some of the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha, we started a Beta Tau Alumni Association. And Beta Tau is the chapter at Xavier University. And through that Alumni Association, over the last 3 years, we've given $250,000 to establish an endowment. Through this endowment, each year we will give out 5 scholarships to students at Xavier University. So I think it's important that alums, we think about how we could use our cash as well as our cachet to assist Xavier University and Xavier University students.
Okay, guys, this segment of the podcast is called the Live 5. It's time to rush our Go guests into answering some rapid fire questions. So, Dr. Jackson, we'll ask you 5 questions we think our Go community would love to know and give you 5 to 7 seconds to answer. Let me know when you're ready.
Sure, let's go.
Favorite throwback or tradition at Xavier?
All night parties.
Where'd you spend more time at, the barn or on the yard?
The yard.
Fried Fish Friday or Fried Chicken Wednesday?
Fried Fish Friday.
Which city's food do you enjoy more, New Orleans or Chicago?
Oh, that's tough. New Orleans.
What are 3 words that describe your Xavier homecoming experience?
Wild, long, and fun.
Well, Dr. Jackson, it was a pleasure connecting with you, a fellow alumni, through conversation. How can our growing Go community connect with you online?
You can connect with the Schott Foundation.org. That is, again, SchottFoundation.org. You can connect with me on Instagram at Dr. John H. Jackson. And those are the 2 ways, the best ways to get in contact with me.
Again, thank you so much for your time.
I'm so impressed with you all and what you all have created here. This is outstanding, and let me know how I could be helpful also. But you all have done a great job. This has been fun, and you're showing that XU really rocks the house. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for tuning in to the Xavier Gold Live Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Now, XU, you know what to do. Join our growing Gold community on the first Tuesday of every month.
This podcast is available to listen to wherever you listen to your podcast. Do us a favor by subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show today. Make sure to also follow us on social media and subscribe to our monthly newsletter.
This is Xavier Gold Live, the podcast where Xavier's legacy comes to life.